I was born in Khan Yunis. There were 9 brothers and a sister, with my father and mother living in 3 rooms in our home in the camp. Now I'm living with my special family, which is my wife and my 3 children.
I'm living in a small village, not far away from Ben Gurion Airport. I got there my family, my wife, my 4 kids.
4 of my brothers were killed by the Israelis. There was a huge shelling and bombing on the Khan Yunis camp. My brother was wounded seriously. He died while I was looking at his face.
I lost my eldest son, Arik. He was a soldier in the tank force, and he was kidnapped and murdered by the Hamas. Arik was my best friend, and I was his best friend.
My brother Sharaf was killed, shot by the snipers, the Israeli snipers. That brother was a very close friend of mine and very dear brother.
I thought many times, what happened to me that I'm not looking for revenge? Where is my anger? I lost my kid. I lost my best friend.
Losing my brothers pushed the whole family to think and to go the way we have gone in fighting against occupation.
I, as a father, I fell. I fell because there is no peace between us and the Palestinian, and I didn't do nothing to help the peace. And therefore, I'm doing now what I'm doing to try to find a peace solution between us and the Palestinian.
We don't want more brothers to be lost, more fathers to be lost, more children to be lost. This pushes us to go into the peaceful struggle against occupation.
It's so easy to look after revenge. It's so difficult to think about peace.
If you are sad because you lost a dear son or a dear brother, making someone else sad will not help.
Revenge will not bring Arik back. When we create the group of the parent circle, it was the first step to build the group of the Israelis. We sit all the families together, each one have said his story, and we cried. All of them, they came to think together what is the best way to stop the hatred, to stop the killness.
The first step to make peace is to talk about pains, and to talk about the struggle, and to talk about violence itself.
We got here a Israelis group of bereaved parents. Is it possible to find such a group in the Palestinian side and to work together as a bereaved families, Israelis and Palestinian? Let's try. Maybe I can find a group of Palestinian parents and to build a group of Israelis and Palestinian talking to the both society. I've met Dr. Jawad the first time in Gaza when I came to talk with the bereaved families.
We shared together this project making the bereaved Palestinian families meet with the Israelis.
We are very close to each other. I know that this man suffered terrible of his losses of brothers.
I recognized his feelings. He lost his son. And I appreciate what is losing a son.
We try together to help the peace.
This friendship allows him to come to Palestine so peacefully and to come to my home. And the same for me. I can go to his home. I think if it is done among the whole people, Palestinians and Israelis, there will be no real border lines between us. It's just a line drawn by the politicians.
If we will sit with our enemy, if we will start to talk not like an enemy, like a human being, and to make our enemy to our friend, this is the way how to create peace.
People who are still in fighting and still in war, that they must put an end for it.
Look, Dr. Jawad, he lost 4 of his brothers. Look at me, that I lost my eldest son, my best friend. We have paid the price. And we are doing the maximum to find a peace. Every one of you can do it. Every one of you need to do it.
My name's Neville Clarence. I come from Pretoria in South Africa.
I'm Aboobaker Ismail, also known as Rashid. I come from Johannesburg in South Africa.
I came from a fairly wealthy family where we had 2 black servants. Even as a liberally minded English-speaking white person in the country, my parents didn't really know people other than so-called white people.
Even though we grew up as Indians culturally, in South Africa, the government at the time when we grew up had the policy of racial segregation, that Indians and coloreds, that is people of mixed race, and Africans were separated from whites.
There were 2 worlds in South Africa. There was the white world and there was the black world. We knew from our education to some degree about apartheid, but we were not exposed to the evils of apartheid. We were exposed to the theory.
We often saw the whites living in a certain way, the wealth they had, the privilege they had, and looked at the facilities that we had, and at the same time also looked at the kind of facilities that were available to African children. And we saw that there were differences inside all of it.
As a teenager, I thought, it would be really nice to say, become a pilot. I joined the South African Air Force for the fun, for the excitement, to work with fast machines, aircraft. I didn't join the South African Air Force to, in some form of conscious attempt to be part of the apartheid maintenance machine, if you can describe it as that.
My father often spoke to us about the political situation inside of the country, about the policies of the then government, and always said that this was something that needed to be overcome, that we had to resist it. Whilst at university, I was very actively involved and in fact played an increasingly leading role amongst my friends, talking about things, having discussions, etc. And it was through that process that I actually came in contact with the ANC underground when the children of Soweto were mowed down because of their protests against Afrikaans and against apartheid. For me, the moment had arrived. I went for military training, so this was then the entry into Umkhonto weSizwe. I went for a senior infantry commander's course, and thereafter I did a specialization in military engineering and explosives.
In the operational side that I worked with, there was very little political awareness. The pilots used to do a certain mission, they would fly out, they would be given a target, and they'd go out and drop bombs, and they would do a reconnaissance flight afterwards and take photographs and see if they'd hit their target. But there was never a question of really what that target was. How many women and children had you killed in that operation?
The Special Operations Unit had been put together very specifically to strike at strategic targets. The ANC was very determined that we wouldn't simply have a racial bloodbath. We targeted the military which upheld the apartheid state.
We were fighting what we called a border war against Soviet-backed communist rebels. This is the kind of propaganda that was passed on to the military personnel, certainly the junior military personnel, that we were not there to maintain apartheid. In fact, that word in my 12 years, or certainly the first 10 years of my career as a junior officer in the South African Air Force, was never used.
We needed to find a situation where we had a huge concentration of military personnel. We came to the determination that we should carry out the attack against the South African Air Force headquarters.
I traveled by car to the South African Air Force headquarters building in the center of the city. We parked the car right outside the main entrance to the building. The car in front of me exploded. Instantly, I didn't see anything.
The windows were shattered, etc. And in fact, the Air Force building came very close to being condemned.
Having lost my sight in such a violent way made me realize how serious things really were in the country. I felt I needed now to do what I had to do, and that was to try and make a change perhaps from within the system. Once I joined the intelligence system, the harsh realities of the oppression was being exposed to me on a daily basis, and it left me absolutely shocked.
I'm proud to have been part of the liberation of my people. Yes, at times you sit back and think about whether it was all necessary. And the answer is a simple one. Had there not been apartheid, we would not have had to engage in that kind of thing.
Since the explosion, I think I became fascinated with an overwhelming desire to know who was behind the explosion, how did it happen, why.
On the first day of the Truth and Reconciliation hearings in Pretoria,
where they were going to specifically focus on the Pretoria car bomb explosion,
I had a message from a journalist through my lawyer who said basically that one of the victims wanted to meet with me.
It was very important for me personally to know that I don't bear any grudges and that I don't see him as an enemy.
To see Neville walking up blinded is a very, very moving thing.
It's so relieving to be able to walk around and shake the hand of a person who might have done something against you.
A meeting of the hearts. To be able to hold hands with someone whom you know has directly been affected by an operation that I'd planned.
It was a dream come true. It was a wonderful experience, and it's still not over. It's still happening.
It actually captured what the truth and reconciliation process was about. This is the beginning of something bigger, that we can walk down the roads and make the change.
People who are still bitter, who are still affected by the struggle, that they must simply look at Aboobaker and myself and say, look, well, we can do it. Why don't you do it?
And to everybody, I would say, there is hope, there is a future, and we can walk down the road and make a difference.